History is not a straight line. It is a labyrinth, often buried under millions of tons of rock, waiting for the right moment to be found. Deep beneath the South African soil, in a cave system known as Rising Star, lies a discovery that has quite literally broken the foundation of human evolution. In 2013, two local explorers squeezed through a 7-inch gap, a terrifying vertical chute known as Superman's Crawl, to find a chamber filled with something the world was not prepared for. Thousands of bones belonging to a creature that shouldn't exist. They named him Homo Naledi. Naledi means star in Sotho. But as we stand here in 2026, the Starman has become the center of a scientific war. Because Homo Naledi lived 300,000 years ago with a brain no larger than an orange. Yet they did things that mainstream science says only we, the large-brained Homo sapiens, were capable of. They buried their dead. They carved symbols. And most controversially, they mastered fire. And today on Hidden Heritage, we are going 30 meters underground. We are investigating the stolen intelligence of our ancient cousins and asking the question the textbooks are afraid to answer. Was Southern Africa the true birthplace of human ritual and spirit? Welcome to the Starman Mystery. Anatomy of a Contradiction. When the first 1,500 fossils were pulled from the Dinaledi Chamber, the world was stunned. Usually, archaeologists find a single tooth or a fragment of a jaw. Here, they found entire families. But as the anatomy was reconstructed, the mystery deepened. Homo Naledi is a walking mosaic of primitive and modern. Their hands look almost identical to yours or mine, with curved fingers perfect for gripping tools and manipulating fine objects. Their feet are nearly indistinguishable from modern humans, built for walking long distances across the African savanna. But then, you look at the shoulders. They are positioned high, like an ape's, designed for powerful climbing. And the skull, this is where the conflict begins. For over a century, the brain-size narrative has been the gold standard of archaeology. The rule was simple: big brain equals intelligence. Small brain equals animal. Because Homo Naledi's brain was roughly 450 to 600 cubic centimeters, about a third the size of ours, they were immediately dismissed by some as primitive. But if they were primitive, why were they in that cave? Why were their bodies found in a chamber so difficult to reach that even elite modern athletes struggle to enter it? In 2026, we are realizing that brain structure matters more than brain volume. Homo Naledi proves that intelligence isn't a matter of size, it's a matter of connection. They were doing human things with ape-sized brains, and that realization is terrifying to those who want to keep history in a neat, orderly box. The Dinaledi Chamber, a sacred space? To reach the Dinaledi Chamber, you have to go through the Dragon's Back, a 12-meter vertical climb up a jagged limestone ridge. Then, you have to drop down a narrow chute. There is no natural light. There are no easy exits. And yet, inside this chamber, skeletons were found arranged in a way that suggests intentional burial. In the latest 2025/2026 research, the evidence for funerary behavior has become overwhelming. Dr. Lee Berger's team identified shallow pits where bodies were curled into a fetal position and covered with soil. In one instance, a stone tool, a hand axe, was found right next to the hand of a Naledi child. This is a burial gift. This is grief. This is an awareness of death. Mainstream skeptics have spent years trying to find another explanation. They suggested the bodies were washed in by a flood. But the geology says no. The sediment layers in the Dinaledi Chamber are autochthonous, meaning they formed right there, undisturbed for millennia. There are no watermarks, no signs of a catastrophic flood. If these creatures were burying their dead 300,000 years ago, they were doing it 120,000 years before modern humans appeared in the fossil record. Africa wasn't just following the world. Africa was leading. The concept of the afterlife didn't start in Europe or the Middle East. It started here in the dark limestone caves of Gauteng. The stolen science of fire. This is the section that mainstream science tried to suppress for years. If you are going into a pitch-black cave system to bury your family, you cannot do it in the dark. You need a light source. For years, the official word was that there was no fire in Rising Star. But in 2023, and confirmed by further analysis in 2025, everything changed. Explorers found massive amounts of charcoal, burned wood, and charred animal bones, specifically the bones of small mammals and birds, scattered through the hill antechamber and the passages leading to the burial zones. The charcoal isn't random. It's concentrated in hearth patterns. This is stolen science. For decades, the mastery of fire was considered the great leap forward that only our species made. It was the tool that allowed us to cook, to grow bigger brains, and to conquer the planet. To admit that Homo Naledi, a creature we labeled primitive, mastered fire is to admit that we aren't as special as we thought. Think about the technical skill required. You have to harvest the wood. You have to keep the flame alive while squeezing through a 7-inch gap. You have to manage the smoke so you don't suffocate in the deep chambers. This is high-level engineering. Homo Naledi weren't just using fire. They were managing it. They were lighting the way for their ancestors, turning a dark tomb into a sacred, illuminated cathedral. Rock art and symbolic thought. If fire and burial weren't enough, 2026 has brought us to the final frontier of the Naledi mystery, symbols. On the limestone pillars at the entrance to the Dinaledi chute, researchers have mapped deep, intentional engravings. These aren't scratches from an animal's claws. These are geometric patterns, hashtags, crosses, and squares, carved into the hardest parts of the rock. This is the birth of symbolic thought. In the history of art, we are taught that cave painting began in Lascaux, France, about 17,000 years ago. Even the Blombos cave engravings in the Western Cape, dated to 73,000 years, were considered early. But Naledi's art is 300,000 years old. Why is this stolen intelligence? Because when art is found in Europe, it's called the dawn of humanity. When it's found in Africa, made by a species with a small brain, it's called incidental scratching. We at Hidden Heritage call it what it is, a map. A signature, a way for a conscious being to say, I was here. This place is important. By carving these symbols at the gate to the burial chamber, Homo Naledi was marking a boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead. They were the first philosophers. The cradle's final secret. The Naledi wars in the scientific community are not really about bones. They are about narrative. If we accept that an ancient African cousin with a brain the size of a chimpanzee was capable of fire, art, and ritual, then the entire structure of Western evolutionary science collapses. It proves that the cradle of humankind wasn't just a place where bodies evolved, but where spirit was born. Homo Naledi tells us that Africa has always been the laboratory of the world. From the acoustic batteries of the pyramids to the ringing stones of Adam's calendar, and finally to the firelit chambers of Rising Star, the message is clear. We have been advanced for a very, very long time. Our heritage has been hidden, dismissed, and stolen. But as we recover these fossils and decode these symbols, we are reclaiming our throne. We aren't just looking at extinct cousins. We are looking at the architects of the human soul. This has been a journey into the dark to find the light of our ancestors. If you believe this history belongs to the people, subscribe to Hidden Heritage. Like this video to help the algorithm reach more truth seekers. And most importantly, leave a comment below with the word Starman. Tell me, do you think brain size matters? Or is it time we admit our ancestors were geniuses? Thank you for watching. The truth is written in the stone, and the fire is still burning. I'll see you in the next investigation.